Police in Istanbul used force to break up protests at a university on Thursday, the biggest anti-government protests Turkey has seen in years. Pepper spray, plastic pellets, and a water cannon were used to attack student demonstrators as they reportedly tried to march near the gates of Middle East Technical University. Demonstrations started in Turkey last week after the arrest of a key rival to the Turkish president. A political activist and Turkish citizen joined us earlier today for more on the protests.
The mayor of Istanbul is Ekrem İmamoğlu, and March 18th is when Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu's university degree is annulled. And the next day, he was detained on charges of corruption, extortion, bribery, money laundering, and supporting terrorism. Since then, he only got arrested on the charges of corruption, but both of these things happened only days after he announced his candidacy for presidency in Turkish elections. To my understanding, I think there's none of those things because it's been more than 10 days and nobody actually gave any good reasoning why he's charged in these cases. And all of his answers have been very straightforward. So there seems like there's no merit to these accusations. İmamoğlu is a bonding force for Turkish politics because Turkish politics is usually very polarized, and he has followed a very textbook liberal social democratic campaign since his early days as a district mayor in Istanbul. So the protest has started with his arrest, but actually there are two primary reasons for why these protests are happening. The main thing is that Turkish, especially young Turkish people, are not seeing a future for themselves and the country anymore because Erdogan's leadership has brought unparalleled economic and political instability and insecurity to Turkish citizens, especially for young people. And the second thing is corruption and the lack of rule of law has become a normal everyday occurrence for a lot of these people. And since then, the protest has been mostly led by young people that are wanting their future back and to be able to live in a country that they can actually create their lives and like live their lives as happily as possible. And so his arrest was the last drop for a lot of young people. And since then, the protests are not just about İmamoğlu's candidacy, but for resistance that everything the ruling party represents.
We also discussed the accusations of severe police brutality in the crackdown on these protests.
The police brutality, I would love to say that police brutality we're seeing is unparalleled, but we have seen similar things in 2013 for Gezi Park protests. So police brutality is the first response whenever some type of big upheaval happens in Turkey. This is especially coming from Erdogan's understanding of ruling a country. Plastic bullets, pepper sprays, detainment, and also a lot of physical force and police brutality has been the reality for a lot of protesters for the last week, the last 10 days. And also, İmamoğlu and his lawyers are arrested. The police brutality is, again, incredibly harsh. We're seeing reports of women being harassed, sexually harassed by police officers when they're unconscious. They also restricted access to a lot of websites and social media platforms. So this created a general nonpartisan upheaval all around the country. We see these protests even in cities that are mostly voted for AKP for the last 20 years. So there's a general distrust towards whatever is happening with the government right now and the lack of rule of law. İmamoğlu's party, the main opposition party, CHP, called for a symbolic primary vote last week, and they announced it just a couple days before the whole thing happening on a Sunday. and they collected 50 million votes all around the country. So Turkey is a country of around 80, 85 million people. So that is actually very huge. So that logically calls for a snap election, but we don't know when it would happen or if it would happen. But until then, actually, the opposition leader of, so the president of CHP, announced a list of companies to be boycotted due to their alleged ties with the government and President Erdogan. And it has been going pretty successful as far as we can say. We can see in the news and also in our cities. When you go to the city center, you see a lot of these boycotts are happening. So overall, the feeling among protesters are positive. But of course, this is not the first time Turkey is trying to battle its way out of an dictatorship, I'm going to say, that people are very tired. But what I can say is that in 2013, we were protesting at Gezi Park. And at that time, we had a future, we had things to lose, we had a future to lose, we had a lot more democratic government, governance in Turkey. Right now, the young people who are protesting, they actually don't have not that much to lose. So they're a lot more resistant towards whatever is happening in the streets.